feel the breath on your nose and as it travels down your throat into your lungs. And bring your awareness to what happens to your physical self when you exhale. As you inhale, your chest rises and expands. And as you exhale, your body softens and releases. So as we take these few moments to let go of the day, the activities of the day, whether they were stressful or not, taking these few moments to rest and receive the energy from the breath. Simply taking those few moments to allow the quiet to come into your body. Inhaling and exhaling. And with these last few breaths, begin to bring more awareness to inhaling possibilities. What is it you might be desiring? What is it you want to see happen? And with your out breaths, as you exhale, let go of anything that is limiting you. Thoughts, ideas, people around you. Let them all go. And with the next breath in, make it deep, 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 deep. And as you exhale, let it go with a sigh. And let's do 2 more breaths like that. Deep breath in. And 1 more breath. Deep breath in. And before you open your eyes, let that energy go right through you into your heart. And then open your eyes and lift the corners of your mouth upward. Yay, that's right. Beverly. Woo. All right, so we have Pam here. If you unmute yourself, my darling, and I am recording. It might have started a little bit late, but I have a little sign up here on my computer that says record.
It's all good. I don't know. I apologize if I'm still frozen, but it's out of my control. I'm moving sort of. Okay. I think what I mainly want to talk about today is the spring equinox. I know you mentioned New York is really bitter cold, but there's a couple of things to keep in mind. Today actually is a really good day, was a really good day in spite of whatever may have happened in your day, as is tomorrow, and Thursday is an uber special day. And the reason I say that is because we're in the waxing moon cycle. The moon is in the sign of Taurus. It's what we call well aspected. So we're actually poised to receive a lot of benefits and opportunities when we take advantage of it. And what happens a lot in our high stressful world, and yes, it's bizarre that even in COVID pandemic, where so many of us are restricted, that many of us are still undergoing a lot of stress. Doesn't seem to necessarily have alleviated that. For some people it does, and for some people it's even more stressful, the isolation and challenge to it. And being in a cold place limits the greatest gift I see over the next couple of days. And as we lean towards this spring equinox that actually occurs on the 20th this year, Saturday the 20th, exactly at 5:37 a.m. For those of you who like to stand the egg upright, if that's a practice you indulge in. But basically, I can't encourage you enough to tap into the gift of your body over the next 48 hours in whatever way you can, in like with the meditation Kathy just gave, which is a reminder for us to tap into the wealth of our body in whatever shape or form it is. I always say the body is the most valuable thing that you own. It houses your spirit, your soul, your entity, your essence. And this particularly charged time where many people are in fear of something happening to their body. I'm talking to a holistic circle of people. So we know that the more we focus on our innate healing ability and strong immune system, the more robust our presence. So the moon in Taurus always reminds me to slow down, to, of course, in New York where it's cold, you can't necessarily smell the flowers, but smell your skin. Smell the essence of a cotton short shirt you might put on. Smell an apple, oatmeal, whatever you eat. Give reverence, focus to the nature where you can find it. And it should be in our food, always available to us, in our water. And so when you give a little more focus to savoring the taste of life, however you do that over the next couple of days, you widen the opportunity to experience and enjoy the fruits of life. And this spring equinox is a bit challenged, but it also brings us tremendous opportunity. So when the day and night theoretically are equal, we are in a point of opportunity to balance the polarities. And what I see being very much emphasized in the spring equinox horoscope is articulate how you feel. And in order to articulate how you feel, many of us have to look deeply into, how do I feel? Because there's different levels. There's a surface level of how I feel. And then you go a few fathoms down, a few fathoms down, a few fathoms down. And so when you really explore the depths of how you feel and why you're feeling that way, articulate it, whether just to yourself or to a beloved or to a coworker. It's not necessarily easy, but the biggest messengers at this point in time are the children. So those of us who are lucky enough to be in the sphere of younger, smaller people, listen to what they're saying, because their artifice at burying or covering up how they really feel is not as sophisticated as an older person. And they may give you a message that helps you understand what's going on with you better. And the more we understand ourselves, know thyself was on the temples of Apollo. The more we understand ourselves, the more we can help, the more present we are, the more in our physical body we are, and appreciate what we have.
Thanks, Pam. It's so interesting. My husband Bernie, we live in a co-op, so we're on the fourth floor, and one of our neighbors has a 5-year-old, and he and my husband Bernie are in love with each other to a point that if Bernie doesn't see Joe for a couple days, it's like, where's Joe? What's going on? And then you'll hear the little knock on the door, and he barges in, kicks his shoes off, takes his jacket off, and sits in the chair and starts yakking it up with my husband. So he's been a true education of just energy and life. It's so delightful. So thanks, Pam.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. And I want to thank those members who have sent in their membership. Thank you very much. It helps to support what we get to see and share with once a month, and all of the email blasts and the directory of practitioners. So thank you very much. And just a heads up, in April, Kristen Prevale is going to be speaking. Her topic is called The River of Time. And it's really, what is our relationship with time? And like my favorite phrase is, what day is it? It's Blur's Day. So it should be an interesting topic. And in May, Kathleen Booker is going to offer us some breath work instruction. She's going to talk about the breath, and she's quite an engaging speaker. And in June, before we wrap up for the summer, I may be speaking about end of life, and just the topic being, talking about end of life isn't going to kill you. So that will wrap us up for the year, not the year, but the half a year. We'll take off July and August, and then we'll resume in September. So I would like to introduce Katie Corritori Kanapka. And she saved my life in this past fall, when it came to be known that I could not support the East Shell Center any longer, that I really had to let it go. And I was, being a yoga practitioner, it's all about non-attachment. So I had to really let a lot of things go. And Katie, in her fashion and her organizational skills, had me on task. We had a goal for the week. We looked at rooms, and she was in Florida and I was in Hartsdale. And on Zoom, we would meet once a week. She would check in, and then she would help me make a list. Okay, where do you want to start? Do you want to start in this closet, in that part of the room? And it was a life-saving practice, let me tell you. And we got it done. We started, I think, late September, early October. And by the end of November, was it the end of November? Yeah.
Yeah, it was right after Thanksgiving, I think.
Yeah. And I just swept the room up and closed the door. So I am very, very grateful. So Katie, I offer you Katie, and Katie, if you would just give everybody a little idea of who is Katie Kanopka.
That's a great place to start. Well, first, I just want to say thank you for having me. Thank you for the beautiful introduction, Kathy. And Pam, thanks for having me here tonight. I love talking to groups like this and sharing some of what I know. So I'm excited to do that with you guys here tonight. So yes, I am at my website. You'll find, if you go to my website, which I'll share later on, is katiecorritori.com. I got married a few years ago and still in the process of deciding whether or not I'm officially changed my name. So that's my married name here on the screen. It's Katie Knopka. So I go by both. You could just call me Katie for now. So I want to start. I have a little PowerPoint presentation, which I'll get into in just a minute with you guys. Kathy, what time do you want me to be wrapped up by? Like a little before 8:30? Is that like probably 8:15? Is that? Oh, I can't hear you. You're muted.
Sorry. Yeah, between 8 and 8:15, that would be fine. So we can have questions.
Perfect. Okay, yeah, so we have a bunch to go through, so I'm going to dive right into the presentation. But I just thought I would start by sharing a little bit about me and how I got started with organizing, which is there's kind of like there's the story that I tell, and I'm going to share a little bit deeper with you guys tonight because I think you'll appreciate this, given that we're all sort of holistic practitioners here. So what I usually say about when I got started with organizing is that in 2013, I was getting certified to become a holistic health coach. I had been working in fashion PR. I'd worked at InStyle magazine, and I worked for a few European luxury brands in the city and put on fashion shows in Milan. It was exciting. It was crazy. It was very chaotic. And eventually I just kind of knew that the path I was on was unsustainable for me, and it wasn't going to be a path where I could have a healthy and balanced life. And I just wasn't really enjoying what I was doing anymore. I really loved it when I got started, and then there came a point where I knew it wasn't what I needed to be doing. So I started thinking about what I wanted to do outside of that and settled on getting certified as a holistic health coach. And as I was doing that, a friend of mine, her sister had an organizing business. She asked me to help her out part-time. So I did that, and I ended up having the skill set for it and doing really well with it. And she was paying me well, and I was enjoying it. And she said, if you get certified, I could pay you more and you could lead projects and stuff for me. So I was in this program for a year, and I thought, why not? The certification for professional organizing was shorter, and because I was already doing the work, I figured it could help me to support me financially while I was getting my business started in health coaching. So that's kind of the story that I usually tell. And I want to share with you guys a little bit more and deeper that, I was thinking more about, where did this really start for me? And the truth is, I think it was when I was a little girl, because I was always moving things around in the house. Like I was always rearranging the furniture in my room. I was always like rearranging our playroom and organizing it. And I think it was like two things. One, my rising sign is Virgo. So I think it's just a natural thing for me to be creating structure and organization. So I think part of it is that. And part of it too is I think there wasn't like a ton of emotional stability in the house I grew up in. And I think it was a way that I was also maybe trying to, as a kid, to like calm my nervous system in a way. So yeah, anyway, that's how I see as I'm seeing now as I'm learning more and more. And as I started to learn about Feng Shui in recent years, realizing that that's what I was really doing is I was trying to I was working with energy as a kid. And so I think that that's just an interesting story because I think sometimes the things that we do as kids really do end up becoming, some of the things that we do really well as adults. And I didn't see that connection until more recently, but I thought you guys would appreciate it. Okay, so I am going to start this presentation. Let's see, share screen. Okay, you guys can see that, right? I'm just going to try. Okay, everyone see that? Okay, cool. So we are going to talk tonight about spring cleaning for your business and life. I know, is everyone here a business owner? I think most of you are business owners, I'm assuming, right? If not everyone. Just give me 1 second. I'm going to set my screen up here so I can see all of you as well at the same time. Can't see everyone. wonder why that is. Well, I can see almost everyone, so maybe that will have to be good enough. Yeah, and then I can go back and forth. I see. Okay. Okay. So we're going to talk about spring cleaning for your business and your life. And I'm going to use the term spring cleaning kind of interchangeably with decluttering, just so you know. Let's see. Uh-oh. How come this isn't working? All right.
Are you using the arrows, Katie?
I am. They're not working. Let's see. All right. Oh, there we go. That's weird. Okay, let's just go with this and see what happens. So yeah, so I shared that I am formerly a fashion PR manager. I worked in fashion for almost a decade before starting my own business. And that's also where where some of these skills really came in handy for me, because I was working first at InStyle magazine and then for a few Italian brands. I worked for Max Mara and Piazza Sempione for a number of years as well. And I was managing 7 collections for Max Mara, multiple collections for Piazza Sempione, and at InStyle, it was just a constant flow of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pieces of high-end merchandise that I had to account for at any given time. So this is also a place where I really honed those organizational skills, because I had to know at any given time, was something in my PR closet? Was it in the fashion closet? Was it on set at a shoot? Was it in, was it somewhere else? Was it somewhere in the United States? Or I was also, things were flying all over the world and I was tracking them with tracking numbers and stuff. So it could get chaotic at times. So that's sort of where some of these organizational skills really came in handy for me as well. So today, what I do is I help people to conquer overwhelm and reclaim their time, energy, and space. I really see these things as all being interchangeable. I grew up in New Jersey, just a little something else about me. For those of you who don't know me, I know some of the people on the call today, but not everyone. So I'm a Jersey girl, and currently I'm in Florida. I'm in Orlando, Florida. I've been spending 6 months here with my husband. And we're going to see what happens next. We're not really sure. Things are changing in the world. Okay. Why is this not working? I wonder what's going on.
We practiced.
I know. Oh, okay. All right, I think I need to click the mouse. I'm sorry if that's distracting, but that seems to be what's working right now. I don't know why the arrows aren't, but we'll go with it. So I want to also share my intentions for you for tonight. So my intentions are that you have an opportunity to take a holistic look. This is the Westchester Holistic Network. We're all holistic practitioners. So I want to take a holistic look at how organizing and decluttering can support you in transforming your relationship with your business and your life. I also want to support you in identifying at least one area, if not a few, that where clutter exists in your business or your life, and to really understand how that might be holding you back. And I also want to help you to discover the first step, to take the first step by identifying one small step that you can take to eliminate clutter for good. That is definitely possible. And I'm going to explain a little bit more about that in a little while. So hang tight. But when I talk about for good, there is an answer to that, and that's coming. And then also I want, it's my intention. Oh boy. It's also my intention to have this be lively and fun, a discussion. So I'll pause every few slides and see if there's any questions, and you guys can just unmute yourselves and chime in if you have questions, if you have insights, anything like that, or pop them in the chat. And I'm going to do the best I can with the technology, and that might be a lively part of this presentation as well. Okay. So organizing is really all about editing. Decide what you need to live simply, donate, or get rid of the rest. So again, going back to those days where I was working at InStyle magazine And my first experience of editing was around fashion, where we would call in, we would have a story on white t-shirts, and we would call in from all the different companies, all the white t-shirts that exist. And then there would be like an editing process where we have all of these items of one category, and then we'd edit down to find the best, or the thing that is going to work the best for the story. And so that's really what this process is. That's what I did when I worked at a magazine, and now I do that with people in their lives, is just taking inventory of what you have, what's available to you, and then editing it down, because we don't always need everything that we have, or we can look at things in like a slightly different way. So just deciding what we need for this season of our life, and then letting go of other things or packing them away, donating and getting rid of the rest. All right. So before we dive into some of the more practical parts of organizing and decluttering, I wanted to talk about the origins of spring cleaning, because over the years, I've done podcasts where I've talked about spring cleaning. I've been interviewed for podcasts. I've contributed to magazine articles. I've worked with my clients on this extensively, but I didn't actually know the origins, and I thought that that could be a fun thing to talk about here tonight. So the origin of spring cleaning is actually in sort of religious traditions. It goes back to, it has the roots of spring cleaning are ancient. So they go back to Passover, Clean Monday, Good Friday, the Persian New Year, and Little New Year. So part of the preparation for Passover was to remove any yeast-made bread from houses, and that included any crumbs. So they had to do like a really thorough cleaning. Clean Monday is celebrated as part of like the first day of Lent, where there's cleaning that's done in the Greek Orthodox Church. Good Friday is part of the Roman Catholic tradition. That's the one I grew up in. And when I was in middle school, one of my first jobs actually was to help out cleaning the church once a week. And so I can attest to this, that there's a thorough cleaning that's done on Good Friday for the altars and the church in general to prepare for Easter Sunday Mass. And then as part of the Persian New Year, which falls on the first day of spring, there was a thorough house cleaning that was done traditionally. And in the Chinese culture, there are Little New Year celebrated as part of the Chinese New Year, and in preparation to rid the home of any negativity and any lingering spirits. So it's more of an energetic cleansing. So in all these different ways and these different cultures, this is something that's ancient, and also, we can invite some of that in now, which is exciting. The other thing that I thought was interesting when I was doing some research on this is that in the United States, the spring cleaning traditions go back to pioneering times. So when people would live in log cabins, and there would be, in the winter, they would cake the middle of the logs with mud to keep any of the cold air out. And then they would be burning these like hearth fires inside. And so by the end of the winter, the windows were covered in soot and you couldn't really see out, and the mud was everywhere. And so they would do a spring cleaning to clean all the soot off the windows and get rid of all the mud caked onto the logs. So that is where it kind of stems from, which I thought was interesting and kind of fun. And I think, given that there is a spiritual aspect to where this tradition comes from, if you want something that could be fun is to invite some spirituality into your spring cleaning. And you can do that by saging your home. You could do that by just lighting a candle, saying a prayer, doing a blessing, setting intentions for the process, and like calling in what you want. Scheduling it around the full moon is cool too. And I think also one thing I really was thinking about a lot too is that we've sort of been in kind of an extended winter period for the last year, maybe 15 months. So it feels like even more we need to do like really a lot of spring cleaning this year. And also this spiritual component could really support us, because we've been in an energetic kind of winter season for a long time now, being indoors and quiet and away from people and things like that with the pandemic. So it feels like even more it would be important to do that right now. Okay, so I'm going to introduce as we go along here. Every few slides, I'm going to share a little bit of like a mindset shift. I do some mindset work with my clients. And so rather than thinking about decluttering and organizing as a chore, I want to reframe it in a few different ways. So the first way I'll reframe it is as a spiritual practice. So that's what we're touching on now. It's like all the ideas that we just talked about that you can do. And also, I'll share, in terms of thinking about organizing as a time management strategy, something that I love to do. Kate Northrup has a great book called Do Less. And in her book, she talks about this idea of taking like just a regular sheet of paper that's like 8 by 11 and folding it in half. And on one side of the half the sheet of paper, you're writing your to-do list. On the other side, you can write your to-do list for the universe. So we're going to talk about this some more as we go, but there's all different ways that organizing and decluttering can happen. And one of the ways is within our time. It's not just our possessions, but also with our time. So I thought that that's a really fun one where when you're sitting down and planning your week and you're trying to figure out how you're going to get everything done, maybe really like inviting that spiritual perspective in and saying like, I am supported and I don't have to do all of this alone, and kind of delegating to, the universe, what it is that you want them to handle. So it was just one kind of fun idea I thought I would share. And I'll share a bunch of ideas tonight. My invitation to you is just, if there's one thing that resonates or sticks, that's all you need. You don't have to worry about all of them. Okay, so let's take a pause for a second. And I just want to ask you guys, like, what comes up when I say I'm going to talk about organizing with you? Like, how do you feel about that? And if anyone wants to either drop something in the chat, or if you want to just unmute yourself and share, we're a pretty intimate group, so I think we can do that. I'd love to just know where you're at with this.
It's a little, little like,
Yep. Thanks, Eileen.
Yeah, I think of papers and boxes. I have a lot.
And how do you feel when you think about the papers and boxes, Beverly?
Quite tense, Someone helped me out though. They gave me this book. Maybe you know it. It was called The Paper Solution.
Oh no, I don't know. That sounds interesting.
It was reviewed in the New York Times, and someone thought I was desperate sounding, and she gave me the book. So I feel I've been using some of the techniques in there, and I'm feeling better, but I haven't been able, to like really attack it. I'd like to attack it.
That's really kind that you lent that along. Thank you, Beverly. Maybe one more, if one more person wants to chime in, and I'm going to do this more, so we'll have plenty of time to talk. Cynthia?
Yeah, when I've got photographs. I'm sorry. I've got photographs going all the way back, not through my whole life, but previous generations, and boxes of them. Mm-hmm. So when I think about approaching them, it's painful because all of that is gone. And then there's an overwhelming amount. There's so many that I just should say it's enough already. You don't need 10 photos of the same event. But then I get kind of caught each time with a catch in my throat. Should I throw this away? So I think it's an attachment to the past, difficulty in releasing that past. And what do I keep it in what manner? Mm-hmm. That's
right. So
the struggle.
Some question, some pain, some grief coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kathy, Katie, yes. I do want to say there is chat, so be sure to glance at that as well.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I will take a look.
Hey, Cynthia, thanks for sharing that, because I'm going through that too, and it's tough.
Oh, I have that problem. I'm glad you brought it up.
Yeah, of all the things, I think that's the most difficult for me to deal with, because it involves grief. Mm-hmm. The unfinished grief. And also, there's some complications too. So it's hard to let go of things that relate to mixed feelings.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love you, but oh my God, you were a raging alcoholic and you hurt me really bad. I mean, these kind of, you know, complications, the mix of feelings sometimes makes it even harder to let go.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, these things can be complex, and it's not just always, so straightforward when the emotional piece of organizing and decluttering comes into it. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. And Eric shared that he's currently in the process of moving, so this is really helpful. And you're looking to start a ceremony process or ritual. Great. I'm glad that was helpful. Okay, so we're going to continue the conversation throughout. Thank you so much for those of you who shared. So yeah, so we're hearing some things about like tension and overwhelm and pain and grief and confusion. Those are really common. I just wanted to share that with you here and now, like at the beginning of this conversation, because I just want you to know you're not alone in that. That I hear that a lot. I basically hear either that, or people are either really excited or they're really not excited and they are like really overwhelmed by the thought of it. And wherever you are is perfect. There's no place that you have to be in terms of thinking about organizing and what that's like for you. So I just want to set the intention tonight that maybe by the end of this presentation, you will, if you are feeling apprehensive or nervous or uncomfortable about the idea of organizing, maybe that you just will feel confident in taking that first step. And that's all you need. And that can like lead to all the transformation to come just by being confident enough to take one step forward. What else did I want to share? There was something else. Oh, and we're going to do more sharing throughout. So I just also want to ask that we create like sort of a non-judgmental space here, that anything that people are going to share tonight will remain here. That just allows for people to feel comfortable to share their hearts openly. And I think that's the way that we can create some transformation and change, even just within this call tonight. So if you could just kind of shake your head and if you agree to those things, that would be great. Thank you. Okay, perfect. All right. Thanks, Eric. Okay. So next, we're going to talk about why you should care about organizing. So I want to start out by just like having you imagine, like, can you think of a time when you've been just really in flow? I think of it as being like in flow in your life with your self-care, with your body. Maybe you're waking up before your alarm. You don't even need your alarm to go off and you feel energized when you get up. You don't feel tired. You're eating a nutritious breakfast and you're enjoying it. You're not feeling like you wish you could have junk food. You're just really enjoying the nutritious food that you're eating. You're exercising easily without feeling a lot of resistance. Drinking plenty of water throughout the day, doing like work that fulfills you, and getting to bed at a reasonable time at the end of the day where you're easily falling asleep. So we've all been in a time like that. Maybe you're in that right now, maybe you're not, but I think, does everyone know what I mean when I'm talking about that? Yeah. Okay, good. So organizing for your environment is like that for your body. It's like that flow state. Like when you start to organize and have an orderly, when you have order in your space, it's kind of like having nutrition or self-care for your body. It's kind of like that. So there's a real impact that you have on your mind and your body. It is another tool that helps us to feel in flow. And like I just touched on, it's proper nutrition for your mind and body. You'll end up feeling more satisfied, more alive, more confident, and just relaxed. A lot of people usually say that like when they want to start working on organizing, it's because they want to feel a sense of peace or calm in their environment. And our environment is so important. So it's kind of like, remember we used to do those English, in English class, I think in like middle school or high school, you used to have those quizzes where it's like, this is to this as this is to this. So you could just remember like organization is to your workspace as nutrition is to your body. Okay. So next, I want to talk about how, oh my goodness, why is this jumping around? Sorry, guys. Okay, next I want to talk about how do you learn to be more organized? So one way that you can learn to be organized, I think, is either if you just have like a natural predisposition to it, and if you have a role model when you're younger and growing up. You know, if you have a parent or a teacher or someone around you who teaches you these things, a lot of times that doesn't happen. It didn't happen for me. And I think it's one of those areas that where things that are really important can and that are really impactful in our lives that kind of fall through the cracks, just sort of similarly how sometimes we're not taught personal finance, or we're not taught about, you know, healthy communication and relationships and things like that, where it's like if you weren't really modeled it growing up, then it's not really taught in school, and then you kind of get to a certain point and you're just like, these are kind of important things for life and I don't really know how to do them. So I just want to share a little bit about a couple of ways that you can learn to be more organized. You can learn the process of organization. And first, I want to share with you some common misconceptions about what it actually means to be organized. Because first we have to define what it actually means to be organized, right? So I'm going to do a little Instagram versus reality. So Instagram would have you believe that this is what organization means. It means that you just go to the Container Store. It's really easy. You just go to the Container Store. You will be a perfectly organized person. You just pick up some bins, some baskets, and definitely probably a few of those like turntable things. And then you're going to be good to go. You spend $100 and you're going to be good. That's all you need, right? And while this stuff can be really fun and absolutely add to your process of organization, it's not really the heart of what it means to be organized. So what is organization if it's not the Container Store? So I think that being a more organized person revolves around managing your time and energy and your space and your things. But it's both of those things. It's not one or the other. So I think anyone can learn to be more organized and can learn how to declutter, and that process just by following some simple principles. And I think we touched on it at the beginning of the meeting. I think Pamela mentioned when we were talking about astrology that now is such a good time for slowing down. Slowing down is one of the first things that I would say is really important when you talk about the idea of getting organized, because you have to slow down enough to notice what's working and what's not, and what's bothering you and what's not. So slowing down, creating awareness, setting intentions. My particular flavor of organizing revolves a lot around I would say that my brand of organizing is intuitive organizing and intentional organizing, because it's not just about moving things around. It's also being intentional and getting clear on what are your goals in life? What are your goals for your business? Things like that. How do you want to feel? You know, that's another question that we talk about a lot. So setting intentions, exercising creativity and flexibility, creating systems. Ding, 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 ding. So I told you before, we're going to talk about how do you declutter once and for all for good. This is your answer. It's hidden in here. Creating systems, that's the way. So that is creating systems and processes is the way that you banish clutter for good. And again, it's slowing down, and I'll give you some more examples as we go through this tonight, but it's slowing down enough to figure out which kinds of systems and processes are going to work for you and that are going to be sustainable for you in the long term, because they have to work for you. Having a growth mindset, you know, being willing to like stretch your comfort zone and grow and practice, and, you know, being aware of that learning curve that comes with anything when you're first learning it, that it doesn't always feel easy, and it feels like you're aware of what you don't know, and then you're not aware of what you don't know, then you become aware of what you don't know, and it's like a painful process, and then you start to get a little bit better at it, and then eventually you master it. So just being in a growth mindset can be helpful too. And then also being willing to release what no longer serves you. And yes, occasionally some container store purchases as well, because sometimes it's fun to, to change the aesthetics of your space as you're doing this kind of deep inner work. It's like inner and outer work, right? Okay. Okay. So decluttering as self-care, the next like reframe I'm going to make for you is thinking about decluttering as self-care. So I was on a walk with my husband last week, and we were talking about how some stuff in the house was bugging us. And I thought for sure that he was going to say the same thing that I said, well, what's bugging you? And I think it was like, I don't even know. I think it was like the shower hadn't been cleaned in a while, and it was bugging me. And I thought for sure that's what he was going to say. And he was like, oh no, it's like, I feel like the hall really needs to get like swept and dusted. And I was like, the hall? What are you talking about? Like, it hadn't even dawned on me. So when we talk about slowing down around spring cleaning, organizing, decluttering, it's because like when we slow down enough just to notice, acknowledge, maybe say out loud, ask for help with something that's bothering us and just isn't working, when there's a system that's not working, we can transform it and we can change it. But it's like we have to be able to identify it, acknowledge it, say it out loud to someone, because it's like as soon as I said that, like, within a day or so, I think I was busy last week and I didn't get a chance to do it, but like my husband took care of whatever it was that was bothering me, just because I was able to say it out loud. So, and then also you can do that for yourself, because I do that a lot for myself, where I'll slow down enough to notice like what's something in my environment that's not working, that isn't feeling right. And I just make some time to do it. And usually it doesn't take more than 10 or 15 minutes, at least not to take the first step. Sometimes, we can do things over time that will take a little bit longer. But so it's just another way you can look at decluttering and organizing is self-care. So either as a spiritual practice or self-care we have so far. All right, so next we're going to talk about where clutter might exist in your life, and how it might be holding you back. How are we doing so far? I feel like I should maybe just check in and see if anyone has questions so far. Any questions? We're good? Okay. I have the chat up, so if you have any questions and you want to just pop them into the chat at any point, that's completely fine. I'll keep an eye on that as well. So clutter is the physical manifestation of unmade decisions fueled by procrastination. I just thought this was an interesting way of looking at it. Unmade decisions is a big one. One of the things I see when I work with people is that one of the number one outcomes of like when someone works with me in an intentional organizing program is they become stronger decision makers. I've seen that happen time and time again, because you just practice, and it's just like going to the gym and doing any other strength training. When you practice something, you get stronger with it. Okay. I liked this quote as well. I thought I'd share with you. Clutter is not just physical stuff. It's old ideas, toxic relationships, and bad habits. Clutter is anything that does not support your better self. So again, another way to reframe looking at what this all means. Okay. So when I surveyed people in my community to see where clutter exists for them in their businesses, I got answers like this. I got answers like my email inbox, my office desk, literally my whole office, and no, I'm not sending you pictures. I got business projects, sentimental business items like awards or magazines I was featured in, business cards, my online address book. My administrative tasks feel cluttered to me, and my taxes. So these are all visible forms of clutter, and these are absolutely all true. These are all places where clutter can exist in your business and your life. And it's not the only place where it can exist. So as holistic business owners, I thought that this was really important to touch on here, for all of us, because we know in all of the ways that we work with our clients that it's the internal and the external and the internal that need to get addressed. And so these are all visible forms of clutter. These are external forms of clutter, but really they can just be a manifestation of something internal, right? So let's talk about what it means to have clutter internally. So some of the invisible forms of clutter are unmade decisions, something that's weighing on your heart or mind, anywhere that peace doesn't exist. I know that like sometimes, we can have a situation either with a client or with someone that we've hired where it's just like there's something not right in the relationship, or the agreements aren't clear, and that can weigh on us. Or it can just create a working relationship where there's not a lot of peace. We've all had a bad client experience before, I'm sure, and you know how that can weigh on you, especially someone who's like a heart-centered business owner. So anything, so when something's weighing on your heart or mind, clutter can also be anything that's out in the open, on your desktop, in your line of sight, that isn't useful, inspiring, or regularly used. So things that just things in your immediate workspace should be either regularly used, something that inspires you, or something that's useful to you in the work that you're doing. And if it's not, it can be just clutter, even if it's, if it is just something that isn't necessarily a bad thing. And in business, it's anything really that isn't helping you reach your potential and your big picture goals. So a good example of what it means that where something can become clutter when it's not a bad thing, it can be a perfectly good thing in your business. Is a friend of mine. I host women's circles once a month. I was hosting them at the Excel Center before the pandemic, and a friend of mine who also hosts women's circles just recently made the decision after 6 years that she was going to stop hosting them. Not because it wasn't a beautiful experience, not because the women who were coming to her circles weren't getting a lot out of it, but just because she was really clear on what her business goals were, and just recognized that this was an area that was kind of becoming a place of clutter to her, because it was keeping her from getting to those other goals that she had, and she needed to reallocate her time. So clutter can also be, I think Cynthia touched on it, like the aspect of grieving that can happen. And we talked a little bit, I've heard a little bit so far too about the idea of, Kathy mentioned letting go being part of this process. And that is a huge part of it, and that doesn't always have to mean it's junk. Sometimes sometimes they're really beautiful things. But they can be clutter if they're sort of getting in your way or stopping you from what you really know you're here to do or that you want to accomplish. And then I also just wanted to mention that a lot of times I think people can feel a lot of shame around the idea of exploring their clutter, and whether it's internal or external, visible or invisible clutter. And I love asking questions. I love more than anything else. And so I just want to invite you to maybe bring some curiosity in, if that's the experience that you have. And instead of maybe being judgmental towards yourself about what you might feel like is clutter in your life, whether it's visible or invisible, maybe you could just get curious. So maybe just start to ask some questions and get curious, and maybe say, I just wonder why. I wonder why this is this way. I wonder why this is in this place. I wonder why I put this here. I wonder why my desk is always covered in papers. And maybe just sit with that for a little bit and see what comes up. See, you may start to get some answers. I wonder why my work feels overwhelming. So those are things that, in terms of physical space, and also your time and energetic space, where you can just start to ask those questions and get curious. Okay, any questions? Okay, we'll move on to the next thing then, which is identifying where clutter. Oh, yes. Sorry. First, we're going to just talk about clutter as a healing opportunity. Another reframe. So I worked with a woman once who had a lot of craft supplies years ago. And we ended up creating like this whole healing experience and opportunity for her in letting go of these craft supplies, because she identified that like it was a big part of when she was first moved to New York City, and she was new to the area. She was new to living in the city. She was new to, everything she was doing, and crafting became sort of like an outlet for her. It became a business model for her. She was selling things on Etsy. It became like a real identity for her. And now she's like, 10, 15 years later, she's a business owner. She's the CEO of a business. She's doing, she's going on Rachel Ray. She's doing all these different things, and her time. And she was also working out of her home space. So she needed more space for her work. And she really wasn't using the craft supplies. But she had a lot of judgments around, like, when we brought that, that stuff up to go through, she had a lot of judgments about like her, the person she used to be being really simple, and some judgments around, maybe there was also some judgments, I think, around like, oh, I should have more time to do some stuff like this that's enjoyable for me just for the sake of it, and all that kind of stuff. So another way that you can reframe decluttering is like, we really worked with all of that, and we created this like experience where she was able to like forgive a lot of the judgments that she had of herself, and then really let go of all the craft supplies with a lot of ease, and bless someone else with them. So by thinking about the idea of forgiveness and forgiving yourself, forgiving other people, like that can be a way that you can have this like really amazing healing experience, and use decluttering as a healing opportunity. I know for me in the past, sometimes I'm not ready to let go of something, but I'll just sit with it, and I'll sit with it for as long as I need to do whatever I need to do in order to let it go. And sometimes that includes forgiving judgments of yourself and others. Okay. Time check. Okay, we're doing good. So next we're going to talk about where clutter might exist for you. So I just want you to kind of sit back and listen. I'm going to read these questions out loud, and I just want you to take them in. If you want, you can take notes. If you want, you just kind of sit back and listen. And I just want you to just see what comes up in your mind as I read these questions out to you. So what bugs you about your business, your workspace, or your life? Where do things feel confusing in your career? Or maybe just even in your workspace, you can't find things on your computer. What are you avoiding when it comes to work? What stresses you out? Or maybe causes you to lose sleep at night? What's literally or figuratively getting in your way? Maybe it's like a pile of papers, or maybe it's a task that needs to get delegated to someone else. Where are you behind on something important? Maybe it's something that you have been telling yourself that you need to get to, and you need to get to it, but you're just chronically struggling to actually get it done. And just take a moment, and I want you to think about that, just to get a clear picture in your mind of just one thing, maybe a couple, but no more than like 2 or 3, just a couple of areas that really pop out in your mind when you think about these questions. So any areas in your business, your office, your workspace, where clutter might be lurking internally or externally. And just identify, if you could just identify one. And then if you guys want to just unmute yourselves, if anyone wants to share or pop in the chat, if you're willing to share, I'd love to hear some of them.
Katie, I'm always looking for things.
Okay.
And right now I'm trying to do my taxes and can't find what I need, and I'm reprinting things that I probably have in some pile. So
Yep.
it kind of, it relates to half the things on this list, you know, stressing me out, what
Yeah.
I'm avoiding it. And all these other papers are getting in my way, and I'm behind, you know, it's already March, mid-March, and I haven't done it yet.
Thanks, Beverly. I'm going to share something after this that I think will may be supportive for you. Yeah, I can definitely understand that. That's one I hear a lot. Anyone else?
I think my computer is it's just a mess.
Yeah. Yeah. Does that is that also like a time thing for you, that it takes you a lot of time to find things, or does it just cause you just general kind of like anxiety when you go on the computer?
Yeah, yeah. It's just a mess. Like I'm working on a book and I'm avoiding it because, finding all the files and where are they? And oh my God, so it's just, so I avoid it.
Yeah, that can be a real pain. I can understand that, definitely. Thanks, Eileen. Thanks for sharing. We'll take one more if anyone else wants to share something.
I got a good one.
Hi, is that Eric?
That's me.
Hi, Eric.
Since you've broadened the definition of clutter than what I would traditionally have thought of, my brother and I are actually engaged in quite a conversation about vaccines. Since
Okay.
we literally are on opposite sides of the spectrum of that conversation.
Okay. So tell me more about that. Like, in what way is that? So I guess, are you saying that like there's judgments that are clutter, or is it something else?
Oh, I don't think he realizes how judgmental he is during this process. And I kind of just approached him with love and tolerance, even though he might have a good message, but the way he shares it's going to go on deaf ears. So yeah, it could easily create a barrier between the two of us.
Yep. Yeah, and that's really what clutter does, right? Like, it just creates like an environment where like there's not like peace, and there's not just like when you walk into a room that's full of clutter, like you don't feel relaxed. And it's the same way, I think, when you walk into a room with a person who is judgmental. So yeah, I love that. I think that's a great example. Sorry to hear you're feeling that way, but yeah, thank you guys for sharing. Those are great examples.
Sure.
Cynthia, did you want to share something?
Yes, I'm sorry, I don't see the person's name who just is not at the desk right now, who talked about the computer being a mess. I'm sorry.
Eileen.
What's her name? Eileen?
Mhm.
I just like to share something that I did that helped me out so much in terms of organizing my material, because I'm also writing a book. And I've gotten very fond of Google Docs. So I have transferred everything that from other formats, and I'm putting them on Google Docs. And I'm actually breaking down individual parts that make up the book. But rather than having that whole document in front of me, trying to go chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, breaking it down, it's an easy way that I could send it, share it, either to ask for editing or not. And I'm just finding it to be incredibly helpful in my organization with material, with written material, even clickable links, photos, and it's all right there. So it's really lightened me up a lot.
Yeah, that's a great tool. Thank you, Cynthia.
You're welcome.
Okay, guys, I'm going to keep going because I know we want to wrap up in a few minutes, and I want to get through a couple more things before we do. Thank you for sharing all of that. So now I just want to share with you, if I can, let's see. So now we've identified an area where clutter exists for you and maybe holding you back a little bit, right? So now I want to share a simple process that I share when I'm doing any organizing work or decluttering. So we're going to talk about how you can declutter and organize like a pro. Just a few simple steps to get you started. Okay, so this is a 4-step process that I learned when I was getting certified as a professional organizer that I still use to this day. And that is that anytime you're wanting to create more order and organization with something, you start out by categorizing, and then you edit, then you contain, and then you maintain. So I'm just going to quickly go through an example of this. So if we're talking about doing paperwork organizing, whether it's physical paper or on your computer, you may, like, if you're doing it in the physical space, you may get a big dining room table or a big counter space and start making piles of things that go together. That's the categorizing. Maybe you use Post-it notes and write what's going where, and you take your time, put some music on, and categorize everything. You could do the same thing with folders on your computer. The next step is editing. So going through that pile then and seeing like what's relevant, what's not. Is there stuff that's old or no longer useful, and shredding it, getting rid of it, putting it in the trash bin on the computer. Then you're going to contain it. So you're going to maybe make a folder for it, and you're going to write what's in it in a way that you can clearly know, and you'll be able to find it again. One of the things that I've had to overcome over the years is being like too organized, I'll say, where I create like an organizational system that's not always intuitive enough, where it's like I'm trying to create so much organization that I don't even think that that's where it would be. So sometimes, like, don't overcomplicate it, just keep it simple and just make sure it's something that you'll know where to find it. And then maintain. So for me, like, I'll go through my personal files once a year. In terms of my business files, I'll probably do that more like once a month to maintain that system. But it's something that you're going to have to continue to be in relationship to throughout time. Okay. I'm going to skip over this. If anyone wants to talk about business taxes, and just for time's sake, there's some more things that I want to get to. Beverly, you and I can have a separate chat. And if anyone wants to talk about this, I'm going to offer you guys some time in a consultation at the end of this, so we can talk about this later if you guys want to. Okay. So the next thing I just wanted to touch on is that decluttering can be a mindfulness practice. So there's a story in a book that I read that I'm going to share with you at the end of the presentation. And this woman who's a Feng Shui consultant came into this gentleman's office that she was working with. And there was a picture of a tightrope walker up on the wall, a big picture. And he was experiencing a lot of tension and stress in his business. And she just made the quick identification that there was something that literally was like tension, the tightrope walker, like the picture was up on the wall, and asked him about the picture. And he really didn't know where it came from or why he had it. He just kept hanging it up in every office he had. And so in order to the idea of creating a mindfulness practice around organizing is just starting to take in on a daily basis, like what's in your surroundings and like why. Why is it there? Why do you have it? And if it's not something that is either useful or sacred to you, thinking about do you really need it? And so that's just one way you can starting to be more mindful and asking the question of, and also questioning the placement of things. Is this the best place for it? Is it the best, the most useful place for it? So now I just want to take a minute to set an intention together. So the first step in crafting the life you want is to get rid of everything that you don't. I thought that was a good one. That's from the Minimalists. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but they have a great podcast. Joshua Becker is one of the Minimalists. And create space for what you're calling in. I love that one too. So we are going to start by setting an intention together, and then I'm going to close us out here because I know we're getting close to time. So I just want you to take a minute. We're just going to be here for like a minute, and you can just close your eyes if you want to, however you're comfortable to be. And we're going to set an intention together for your first small step towards a more organized business and life. So let's just close our eyes and take a breath together. We've been through a lot of information now. Kind of just circling back to where we started the meeting with Kathy's beautiful meditation. And just also remembering as we take a few breaths together here that, when I think about the idea of literal spring cleaning, I think about the idea of like opening all the windows in your house. And this is, just taking a breath is a way we can do some spring cleaning in our bodies. So I want you to just get a picture in your mind's eye of the area of your business or workspace that feels cluttered to you. And just think about what that looks like, maybe what the colors are like, what it feels like to be there. And just focus in on that area, maybe that space or that project. And I just want you to ask in and just let your intuition answer this question for you, or let it just arise in your mind. Just going to ask a question and just let it come forward. What is one small step I can take this month to create more order in my business and my life? What is one small step I can take this month to create more order in my business and my life? And when you have it, you can just kind of flutter your eyes open and come on back and write it down if you want. If you guys want, you can just pop them into the chat. I'm going to keep going because I want to just wrap this presentation piece up so that we can answer any questions and hand it back over to Kathy. But pop your intentions into the chat and we can all read them and share them together. And here's a couple of ideas that I have for you if nothing does come up. Sometimes I know that you have to be in like a deeper meditation practice to get those answers. So you can continue to do that. Beautiful, Beverly. Keep your desk clean. Love that. And here's, you're right where I am. So a couple ideas if you didn't get something. You could create a 10-minute daily decluttering practice at the end of the workday, where you just take 10 minutes to close everything down on your computer, maybe actually shut your computer off to indicate you're done with your work. Clear your desk, put papers away, take your dishes back to the sink in the kitchen, things like that, and take 10 minutes to really clear everything from the day's work. Maybe you could spend 20 minutes reviewing your calendar each week and commit to canceling or delegating tasks that you don't really need to do to free up some time. I do this once a week with an accountability partner, and it's really helpful. And I'm also going to offer you guys all a free 45-minute session, virtual session, to talk to me about your goals and intentions and get some support and get some more customized support and answers to any questions that you have. So that's just another idea. Okay, great. Great, Cynthia, you're decluttering your desk. That's awesome. Throwing things away in computer files. Here's some books that I recommend for furthering your learning. These are just a few books that have helped me. You can take a quick snapshot or a screenshot or a picture on your phone. You can always email me if you want the names of these books as well. I'll be happy to share that with you. Envelopes for photos to categorize, Pamela, that's awesome. Yes, that's it. That sounds like a great first step, is just starting the system, right? We talked about that, like just creating the system. Cool. Beautiful. Yeah, folders. That's a great idea. I love these. These are great, guys. Okay. So thanks for coming. Thank you all for being here. And good luck, and definitely, take me up on the offer. I'm happy to support you in getting started. You can just email me to set that up, or I will also pop a link to my calendar into the chat here. And I'd be happy to talk to you guys more one-on-one about your specific goals. And that is it for me. So thanks for having me. I'll close this out.
Thank you, Katie. That was wonderful.
I'm glad.
That's great.
Does anyone have questions, or I don't know if Kathy or Pamela, if you need to do anything.
I forgot, Katie, you had sent me an attachment, I think, that I was supposed to send out to everybody.
Oh, you can send it tomorrow. It didn't have anything to do with this. It's just 10 tips for organization, which actually will probably be more helpful for people to read after the presentation. So yeah, that's perfect.
I really loved Eric's idea of creating a ritual, a ceremony. You know, especially when you're going through, if you're moving, and I actually did a I actually did a ceremony with another person and myself, you know, just cleansing the place and giving gratitude, and I find, even though I might dread something, there's a closet. I didn't put it in the chat or anything, but there's a closet in this apartment that I don't go into much because I've moved like 3 times. I've moved the house, I've moved an office, I moved an apartment, and it's all in that closet. And I keep thinking about going there. But I also know how it's going to make me feel that I've unloaded. Space, and
lighten some things up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also really love in the chat here, Eric said, delete lots of old contacts. I just want to share one other thing that could be really fun. Kathy, do you mind if I tell the story about your folders?
Oh, go ahead.
So when I talk about the idea of organizing with intention, so when Kathy and I were working together, we were clearing out some old office supplies that she had. And I asked her, you know, what was her intention in the immediate future for taking on new clients. And she said she was looking to take on 3 new clients. And she kept 3 folders out specifically to put the files for those 3 new clients. And then she emailed me a couple weeks later and had just booked in her 3rd new client. And so I think that like this is one of the real like fun and magical things we can do. I've also done this with my contacts. So I just wanted to share this as well, that like set the intention of what you want to invite in as you're deleting some of the old. So I've done this, like I've gone through my phone and deleted like old people that I used to be in contact with, you know, in my fashion days that aren't really relevant to my life now, or just people I haven't talked to in a long time, or people I don't care to be in touch with anymore. And what I did was I set the intention that new contacts that were going to be the perfect people for me to be in contact with now would come into my life. And that started happening. Like people started connecting me with new people and new clients. And it was really fun how that can happen. So that's another just kind of a fun thing you can do.
Katie, I have the kind of the opposite experience. I keep all of my contacts. There are people that have been dead for 10 or 20 years. I keep them in as a record of my history.
Oh, cool.
I flip back over and I go, oh, I remember him. Wow, that's so cool. Otherwise, they might be gone. And I kind of enjoy the experience of recalling that part of my life when that person was in my life. So I have kind of like a little tweak on that.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing about this. It's like, it's really what works for you. If that's what works for you, because that's what brings you joy, is to reminisce in that way, then absolutely keep them, you know? That's working for you in your life. That's awesome.
I do this periodically. Actually, I did it last night. I had a memory of a really uncomfortable experience when I was president of the PTA. So this is a while back since my daughter's older. And I just stuck it in search in my emails and brought up all these email threads from God knows how long ago. And I just deleted the whole bit. And I think it's really good to do that with, because we keep these email threads forever, and basically from a energy way, it's keeping a lot of like bad stuff in the cyberspace, and it does, we're sustaining these threads of toxic materials. So anyway.
Yeah, definitely. If something's like a negative experience, it's good to then I also think if it's not on the computer, it's nice to burn things too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm talking about digital burning.
Yeah.
I'm finding with the pandemic that it's I'm decluttering people. You know, like, people are, kind of starting to call again, and they haven't been in touch over the entire pandemic. And I'm just realizing, no offense, I just really, so I'm telling people honestly, let's just,
Yeah.
yeah. And it feels really good. I mean, I do it with great compassion, but it just feels really good to say, I just don't even want to spend, the energy to process why we haven't been in touch. Let's just declutter.
Yeah, that's awesome. I feel like, I don't know if you guys all feel this way, but I feel like, yeah, after this experience, it feels like our capacity is different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
There is no capacity.
Right. Yeah, I used to have a lot of people that would just like call me because I'm just a lovely person. I'm a great listener and they just love me so much, but I wouldn't really speak very much with them. And I'm like, I just don't need to do that anymore. I do that for my living. I don't need to do it for personal friends.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You should be paid for that.
At that level of listening, you betcha.
I liked your definition of clutter. I know it's off topic, because last week I made a major decision and I could physically feel the difference. It was like I had to make a decision. It was weighing on me too much at that point. And I made a decision to start a PhD program. So it's like a 5+ year.
Wow.
That's awesome.
But
Awesome.
I
Great.
could literally feel the weight off my shoulders at that point.
Yeah.
So I really appreciated this workshop.
Oh, that's amazing. I'm glad. And yeah, that's such a cool example of it in real life. That's awesome. Eric.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Letter of thoughts.
In Eric.
Huh? What?
Letter, should I, shouldn't I? Should I, shouldn't I?
Yeah, I had choices.
Great.
Good
What
choices.
kind of PhD program are you doing?
I'm doing a dual title in human development, family science, and demography.
Wow.
Brother.
Oh,
I will be
That.
at Penn State in a laboratory all dedicated to recovery.
Wow.
Beautiful.
That's amazing.
Brilliant.
oh,
Beautiful.
I'm super excited.
wow. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You guys have to go at 8:30. I love you. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Love
Katie.
you, Eileen.
Nice
Nice seeing you.
Lovely to see you.
Say
folks.
good night.
Good luck, Eric.
Thank you, Katie. Wonderful.
Thank you, Katie.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I love that. To everybody. Good night. Thank you for being here.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.